Hi, everyone, and welcome to Advantage Club's Inspiring Leadership podcast. My name is Smiti, and I'm the founder of Advantage Club. Today, we have a very amazing person with us today. His name is Ashish Mahajan. He is the talent head of MoEngage. So, hi, Ashish. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Smiti. Thanks for inviting me and having me for this particular session. It's indeed a privilege and honor to be the part of it.
Same here. It's actually the honor is ours, Ashish. So we have Ashish here for a good 15-20 minutes with us today, and we're gonna uh, you know kind of do some conversation, some chit chat with him around HR, around leadership, and the rest of the things in the world. So before we go on to that, Ashish, would love to hear a little bit about you, your background, your experience. Would love to share that with the viewers. And what do you do at MoEngage today?
Sure. Thanks, Smiti. So my journey, professional journey spans around 2 decades now. So I started my journey in 2001, and it's been a, a journey which has a mix of ups and downs. So to me, HR was more of a, or I would say, when I started my career or profession in the HR field, it was more of a chance, and then chance became a choice, and now that choice is more of a passion. So I'm always a very people centric person, and I always focus in terms of looking at problems of people and solving it in different ways, and that's something which really uh, excites me overall, and that really has taken me to this level within the HR landscape. So my role at MoEngage is more aligned in terms of bringing new talent within the organization, focusing more from an organizational growth strategy and uh, bringing in a lot of innovation, bringing in a lot of transformation within the talent landscape, and making sure that the open roles are closed within minimum turnaround time. Uh, the focus is more in terms of bringing in a lot of thought leadership strategies and work closely with the leadership team to make sure that as an organization we are able to grow and move to the next level.
That's great, and thank you so much for sharing that with us, Ashish. And so you mentioned that innovation and driving more initiatives is part of your work, right? So of course, when you're driving innovation, when you're driving new things which have not been done before, or you are kind of changing the landscape of how things are moving today, there are obviously a lot of challenges which come in play. And while of course challenges are the stepping stones to success, would love to understand, how do you navigate challenges when the going gets tough, and maybe some examples of failures which you've experienced, and how did you overcome them, and what did you learn from them?
See, if you ask me, life is always full of ups and downs, and if there are no challenges, I think in the professional space, then probably there will be no need of my role within the organization. If the challenges are existing, that's the reason the role is there. Yes, and along with challenges, you really need to figure out solutions, and and for that, what is more important is you really need to be very optimistic in your approach, because if you get carried away with it, or if you start feeling down, things are not gonna work in that direction. I think one of the most important thing to overcome challenge is to communicate with people, talk to them, take the viewpoint, do a lot of brainstorming, and don't shy away from taking help or support. And I think that has really helped me in terms of moving to the next ladder, or to reach to the point where exactly I am. And I constantly believe in doing a lot of reading, because the more you read, it typically opens your horizons of knowledge as well as experience, and that gives you right impetus, and that gives you right set of directions what needs to be done when you are facing a challenging situation. And then as an individual, I always believe in perseverance. So you really need to try and focus more on smart thinking rather than on hard work. That's how I've been able to make sure that I'm able to uh, face these challenges, which sometimes act as damp spot for me. Few examples which I could in fact, if we talk about challenges, there have been lots and lots of examples, and every challenge has been pretty nearer or dearer to me. So it always becomes a very difficult thing to talk which challenge should I which I talk about. But yeah, but couple of challenges which I could typically talk about uh, would be one while I was working in one of my previous organizations, and one particular thing, and we recently had started the product division, right? And one thing which I could typically see out there was a lot of offer rejection, and in a span of around 3 months time, I could see rolling out around 42 or 43 offers, and in that 36 to 37 people had rejected the offer. So when I looked at this past data, I said there is something which is going wrong. Recently joined that organization, however. So after looking at the past data, I started speaking to the candidate who had rejected our offers to understand what was the reason, why exactly they took the interviews, and why they rejected our offers. And one of the things which came as a highlight was they were not thinking organization as a tech-driven organization. They were thinking it is more of a finance organization where the tech-driven role is going to be very, very limited. So my first challenge was, how do I break this particular myth within the candidate landscape? I started working very closely with the next set of candidates to make them aware that what exactly the organization is all about, what do we plan to do, how do we plan to scale up in terms of the product, what is going to be their contribution, and how exactly the roadmap of the product is going to be. After having long discussions with the candidate, I used to meet these guys either in coffee shops or sometime in the office. And before I could call these candidates for the interview, I also started making sure that I also made them meet a few of the leaders within the organization so that that ice can be broken. And then I started the interview process. And this really helped me. Another thing which I did was from the very beginning, I started doing engaging them up. The moment the candidate landed in the office, we had a big giant screen which would say, "Hi XYZ to this company. We are proud to have you as a candidate. We wish you all the best for the interview, and we will love to have you as a part of our family." That was one thing. And the same message used to be depicted in our meeting rooms where the candidate was sitting for the interview. And that really helped me to solve this particular challenge. And the moment the candidate accepted the offer, we started sharing very personalized what's how is he? This is your offer. This is your workstation. This is your joining kit. Why don't you come soon and join us? And this was not shared by the HR. This was shared by the team with which the person is going to work.
No, that's amazing. And I think what I love is that, everyone puts efforts on a new joinee or an existing employee, but putting that kind of an effort to engage an employee who has not even joined you, who is actually there for interviewing, and he might or he might not be hired. I think that's very innovative. And I think I've seen this kind of a thought process in a few other companies as well, who are very people oriented and very people driven. So it also kind of speaks miles about the ideology of how people driven you are, and what you have thought about to actually attract and retain employees in this market. So that's amazing. And you also mentioned another point that when you are facing challenges, it is important to also get support, get the right kind of help from others when you are in a fix. So, and I've seen this among most of the leaders, that everyone has supporters, everyone has mentors who they reach out to once in a while to iron out any problems. So who has been your biggest supporter or mentor over the course of your career?
I think if you ask me, my family is my biggest strength and my biggest supporter. So the more time I spend with them, the more things I discuss with them, I typically get a lot of solutions and a lot of ideas from them. Because what I feel is management is more of a common sense, right? It is not about any ideology, it is not about any style. So I typically look at management as typically learning, maybe running my home then I put that problem into that particular shoe and try to figure out a solution by talking to my family, to my parents, to my wife. And that really has helped me to carve out a lot of solutions, and that has really worked for me. So I always feel my biggest supporter is my family.
No, that's great. And I think uh, having a family support, if possible for certain people, it always becomes the best thing, because I always say if your house is sorted, everything is sorted, you know. So it's amazing that you have a great family support. And I've seen that with most successful people in life, the families are very supportive. Because if you're not having a supportive family, it becomes really hard to also progress in your career.
Very.
Amazing. So, just from a overall perspective, what would you recommend HR leaders that what are the steps they should take to address changing needs of employees? Because the whole landscape has changed in the past few years. What was working pre-COVID is not working now anymore. So, what steps would you recommend to HR leaders? Because employee needs are constantly changing. People are working from home, working from office, working from the moon, from the Mars. So it's very, very difficult nowadays for HR leaders to navigate challenges. So would love to hear your thoughts on that.
So I think uh, nothing is constant. Change is the law of nature, right? Before COVID, nobody had thought about everyone working from home and how well the entire industry has been able to make sure that without any difficulties or any issues, we've been able to give a strong support to the ever changing business dynamics, right? And COVID has been one of the prime examples in terms of this. And I think as HR leaders, not HR leaders, I think any business leader these days is very aware of this particular fact that if we really need to move in the value chain, we need to make sure that we get aligned to the new things which are right now being constantly knocking the doors. So you talk about technology, right? So earlier, when there were no computers, everything was manually. The moment people could see what is the advantage the computers are bringing on the table, every industry professional, business professional started moving very automizing the process, right? Similarly, now if you talk about new technologies or new platforms within HR landscape, right? They've been continuously knocking the door because and these particular things are typically helping the organization to grow to the next level and bring out a lot of values within the entire HR processes, right? So these are also new changes, and as an HR leader, if I don't align myself to these upcoming changes, right, I will not be able to do justice to my profession, to my people, to my organization. So I think alignment is the major need and the major R of any particular business leader, that they need to get aligned, because everybody wants to grow to a next level, and to that you have to have a real vision. Second important aspect in terms of change, what I always feel is that you need to be very flexible, because whatever was the demand earlier may not be the similar demand today. So you really need to change with the market, right? Until and unless you are not that flexible to the change, things are not going to work. So I think these and then third important thing I think is the purpose, because today as business leaders, our major chunk of hires are Gen Zs. And when you look at Gen Zs, when they are coming on board, they are looking at what is the purpose organization is going to solve, what is in for them, how well they're going to contribute to the society, and what and whether that purpose is going to satisfy their hunger or not. Until and unless you are not clear about it, things are not going to work. And I think these are the key things from a change perspective, which HR leaders should always focus in terms of this.
No, that's great. And I think what I hear from this is alignment and, listening to your customer base, which is your employees who are about to join you or who have already joined you, and also curating a purpose for them, which kind of syncs with the strategy of the organization. Very spot on 3 pointers around, actually address the changing needs of employees. We all talk about employee experience, and from a recruitment perspective, we could also talk about candidate experience, because they're also future employees. And you mentioned one of the innovative things you've done in the past, which is around creating a good candidate experience. Are there any other examples you would love to, you'd like to share with the rest of the viewers around what other things have you innovated around engagement or experience for employees, current or future, either of them?
I think your engagement or your experience starts during the time of talent acquisition, because your candidates are gonna be your employees. If you are not able to create that strong engagement structure during your interview process or post your interview process, right, then when the employee joins you, you'll not be able to do the justice. So because what exactly employees look at is the culture of the organization. And I think when you talk about engagement, it is more about your culture, how well the organization from a culture or from a EVP perspective is being driven. There are a lot of examples which I could typically talk about in terms of employee experience. Uh, One is in terms of your, I would say, is the career plan or your succession plan. Uh, if I talk about MoEngage, right, everybody in the organization would focus more in terms of growth. Everybody would focus more in terms of your career leader, or so how do they want to grow? They would look at respective mentors, or they would look at some sort of a mentoring program. So in fact, last year we did my L&D team, our current organization's L&D team, organized a great event, and thanks to that particular group, they initiated and they organized a strong career week where we had people coming from industry talking about the mentorship, talking about career progression, talking about the challenges in terms of this. Then we typically had the IDPs one-to-one discussions with the leaders within the industry, within the organizations, where you could typically seek help, where you could typically take mentorship from them. And that was a great engagement exercise, which as an organization we did. And I have not seen such sort of an engagement exercise in many of these organizations. And a company like MoEngage, which is a growing organization doing such, and it was very well taken by the employees, and really they appreciated it. And I think it was a great job done by our L&D group in terms of this.
No, and I love how you've also involved the leadership out here, because leaders need to really, really walk their talk, and they need to, get down to business themselves, engage with the employees, current or future, either ways, drive a bigger impact in terms of employee experience. Because managers can only do so much, right? But if leaders get involved, that really sets the right pulse in the organization.
And second thing, when leaders get involved, right, people then employees also feel good about it, that it is coming from somebody at top management level. They're caring about us. They want us to grow as a whole. So it's a win-win situation for both, from an organization as well as from an employee perspective.
Right, absolutely. And it not only engages your employees, it also engages your leaders in a way. So that's,
Yeah, and then I think it is a great, it gives you a great sense of motivation also. And it is one of the stepping stones, because you're trying to shape the career, and a stepping stone to retain more talent, because then the talent feels valued. And
right.
at this point of juncture, what is more important is uh, how much value you are able to give to the talent. Because if the talent grows, organization definitely is going to grow.
Absolutely. And just as a parting note, my last question, although we've covered most of it in our past 15-20 minutes, but one piece of advice you would like to give to HR leaders of tomorrow?
See, I would typically say to all my HR friends and HR fraternity is, be honest. Be honest. Because if you are honest to your profession, believe me, things will fall in place. And that's the biggest virtue which I have learned in my whole career, that be honest to your profession, be honest to yourself. Because if you're able to if you're able to win that virtue, you'll be able to do justice. Because we are in a profession where try to shape the career of individuals, and that gives us the most sense of satisfaction and most sense of relief. Because if you are able to give a job or shape a career of an individual, and if you are not honest and transparent, that means you are trying to play around with somebody.
No, I love that. The honesty piece, not just to yourself, to your profession, to your colleagues, to everybody. And it also helps in adding value to the integrity of an individual. Love that thought. It's amazing. Great, amazing. Thank you so much, Ashish. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. It has been truly an immense pleasure having you here today. And I'm sure our viewers will learn a lot and gain a lot after they listen and watch this particular session.
Thanks, Smiti. Pleasure for having me, and it's been great in interacting with your viewers in terms of this and sharing my experience. It has really been a privilege.
Thank you.